We're talking actors and directors who put on the shows.
We're talking playwrights and designers who you'll want to know.
From the very first rehearsal to the final curtain call.
We might be off Broadway, but we're talking about it all.
'Cause we're two local gals
With global pals, it's everything, everything, everything theater.
with Benita
And Ellen. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Everything Theater Podcast Backstage episode, where we just chat about whatever we want to talk about. I'm Ellen Cribbs.
And I'm Benita Zahn. Well, we talk about anything as long as it eventually comes around, right, to Everything Theater.
Of course. We won't just randomly talk about something not related to theater in any way.
We do that before we get started.
Yes.
Oh, if you could only be a fly on the wall.
And I want to let you know that this episode is sponsored again by Harbinger Theater with their production of Admissions, which runs till this weekend. If you're listening, it is this coming weekend is the end. You have until the 12th to check it out, March 12th. Here's the little plot for you. Sherry Rosen Mason is head of an admissions department at a New England prep school, fighting to diversify the student body. Alongside her husband, the school's headmaster, they've largely succeeded in bringing a stodgy institution into the 21st century. But when their only son sets his sights on an Ivy League university, personal ambition collides with progressive values with convulsive results. A no-holds-barred look at privilege, power, and the perils of hypocrisy. And I was lucky enough to catch this production during its first weekend. And I tell you, those ones where you on the car ride home just can't stop talking about these. This is one of those shows. It gives you a lot to think about. There's a lot to discuss about the state of diversity and equality in this world and how it works. And it's great.
That's great. Oh, I'm really hoping I can get to see it.
Yeah. They're
That's
doing
what
great.
theater should be, right?
Exactly. That is. There's like the fluff theater, which is totally fine. That's what I like to write when I write. And then there's the thought-provoking theater, which, is more changing the world. And I
Right.
love that too.
That's the beauty of it, you know?
Yeah.
So we've got some interesting answers to the question that we asked.
Yeah. So we were asking about, we wanted to do a celebration of theater in a way of saying what's everybody's personal favorite, best production or performer or director and blah, 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 that you've seen, locally or Broadway, regionally, internationally, and why did it have a big impact on your life?
And
And
David said,
yeah, go
I
ahead.
want to acknowledge the stage managers. And he says, I feel like they're the unsung heroes of a production, like Cece Isabella, who's a rock star. And most recently, for Marjorie Prime, our stage manager, Julia Swick, goes above and beyond the call of duty. She is absolutely outstanding. And Megan Ryan, I'm going to agree with him. I think that, often we don't celebrate them. They're doing incredible work, still. They're Blacks. They're just always there. They're aware of everything that's going on, and they really keep it moving.
And they're the ones that put in so much effort that you never realize, the amount of energy they need to be there at every rehearsal. They need to make sure they're taking notes. They need to make sure they're communicating with everyone. They need to be running the show. I mean, it's a huge responsibility that often, gets not as recognized as it should be.
No. And bravo, Rachel. You know who I'm talking about. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Let's see. Maria says, this is a great question. I would say it's been several for me. As a blind performer, I've had to create my own opportunities, and I still do.
I'd love to chat a little more.
I would love to talk to you.
Yeah. And maybe we pose that as a question, Ellen. If you have a challenge, a life challenge, a physical disability, or otherly able, how do you manage? Tell me what you're looking for in a show, in a cast, in a production?
And what opportunities, as Maria says, has she created for herself?
Yeah. Yeah. Marlee Matlin, right?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Evan says, Casey and Aaron from Creative License have always been very good to me. They've involved me in a lot of projects and always do great work. Bravo. Also, Beth Ruman for costumes and Nikki Lights for lighting.
And speaking of Nikki Lights, he was all over this board. From anyone who's local to the capital region has probably heard this name. His real name is Nick Nealon, but he's called Nikki Lights because he literally provides lights for so many productions. I've worked with him personally too. He's fantastic. So Patrick replied, Nicholas Nealon, Nikki Lights designs, hangs, focuses, loans lights to a dozen different companies and spaces, frequently doing tech for a few productions a weekend. There are literally thousands of evenings of performances that would not happen in the capital region without his extraordinary talent, generosity, and sheer industriousness. And when he's not lighting a show, he's attending one.
Probably thinking about what he might have done, huh?
Right, absolutely.
Bravo. Jessica says, I read Macbeth in high school as part of English class and really didn't like it. Our teacher tried her best to help us understand it, but I was just not interested and thought, I don't like Shakespeare. Then in college as a theater major at UW Milwaukee, I saw every production at the Milwaukee Rep Pabst Theater because I could get $20 student rush tickets. I ended up seeing a production of Macbeth starring a prominent Milwaukee actor named Jim DeVita and was absolutely blown away. The mood, the costumes, the drums, the acting, it all came together. And Macbeth finally clicked for me, as well as Shakespeare as a whole. It needs to be experienced, not read. Macbeth is now my absolute favorite play.
I love it. I love it. And that's, I think we've talked about this a little in the past too, of, unfortunately, most English classes in this country sit and force their kids to just read text like Shakespeare and other plays. And that's not how to get introduced to theater.
I have I've always been into theater, but I had to read Julius Caesar in the old honor English class. And I said, no way, I'm going to do the Cliff Notes. It held no interest to me to read it that way. So I get it. She's right. Some things you have to hear the music of the language.
Mm-hmm. And get on their feet. Yeah. Let's see. John says, the theater artist who had the greatest impact on my art is Patricia Birch, choreographer of the film Grease. She directed me in 6 to 7 shows, gave me the opportunity to play the leads in Fiorello and her first off-Broadway play, American Enterprise, not to mention the Snow Queen in the London West End production. She always treated me with respect and humor and helped me believe in myself as an actor. I am forever indebted to her and will always have great affection for the boss lady.
We always just read first names, but that one was penned by John Romeo. So if you know him and his fabulous body of work in the capital region and beyond, think about some of the things and, the work and who helped him develop his talent.
Yeah.
Michael says, Bill Franconis, who cast me in a Strindberg play when I was 15, and whose kindness, talent, and high expectations gave me an example of what to strive for as a director. And Sarah Melita, who gave me the opportunity to teach, direct, and write for 6 years at Nisti's Theater Art School. These two artists taught me what I could become. And I want to give Sarah, my own props. And Sarah's mom, who passed not that long ago, Meryl Ruchterstoll, was a whiz, a magician when it came to costuming. She could take a dress that Ellen, you and I and a few friends could be in, give it a grab on the shoulders and the waist, and then return it to you as if it was made for you. Her work with a needle and her eye to see what belonged on the body. That's where my props gonna go. The costume lady here.
Definitely. Another role that is often overlooked, but a lot of work goes into costuming.
And I think a lot of people, when you're on stage, you get it. But the costume really can help you with your
Mhm.
character.
Definitely. Or hinder you if it's not done well. So that's why a good costumer is very important.
Yeah.
Let's see. Aaron said, I don't know what my favorite play is now, but for at least a decade, Midsummer Night's Dream was my favorite. When I was 14, I saw a production of Midsummer at the Stratford Festival in Canada, and everything about it blew my mind. The performances, the sets, the costumes, the lighting, it was so magical. I can still see Titania in a full skirt of flowers surrounded by her fairies. The crazy thing is, on the same trip, I got to see Romeo and Juliet and got to meet my number one crush, Jonathan Crumby, better known as Gilbert from Anne of Green Gables. He played Romeo, and because he had injured his ankle during the performance, he was the last actor out of the stage door. My friends and I waited for him, and he was so kind. He signed autographs and took a photo with us.
It's a great story. And David says, well, I can certainly list a few. Matt Teichner, may he rest in peace, gave me my first opportunity on stage in Wait Until Dark. Jennifer Van Eiderstein, after Curious Savage, encouraged me to continue when she said, this community needs you. An absolute sweetheart to work with. Easily among my favorites. And then Brian Sheldon showed me how to really be funny and not to be afraid to go bigger while still staying within the confines of the story. An actor's director and strong collaborator. David Rook is one of my all-time favorite actors to work with, a true gentleman and fantastic actor. Steve Nicholas, as full of himself as he may be, with a little smirk, is actually a hilarious and somehow humbled stage presence. Siobhan Shea still remains one of my favorite actors in the Capital Region. If you hand me a script and ask me who I think can play this role, I'll likely answer Siobhan. Nikki Lights is a lighting stud. In the beginning, when God said, let there be light, he was talking to Nikki. Michael Kennedy gave me my favorite acting experience when she cast me in the film The Climb. Her calm demeanor makes her easy to work with, while her strong direction makes her an actor's dream to learn from. Plus, her care into social matters is incredible and not recognized enough. Seascape, under Evan Jones' brilliant direction, still remains my favorite stage production to have been a part of. It completely changed my life in ways I had never anticipated and allowed me to work with Confetti Stage, which I believe to be one of the more bold theaters in the area in terms of play selection. They don't often make the safe choice, and I appreciate that. And I'd be remiss not to mention the Capital Region MVPs, Patrick White and Chris Foster. Nobody supports this community of artists like these two do. They see just about all, if not all, productions that come this way. They're constantly pushing and encouraging actors. They share their talents as well as molding others. They are ultimate cheerleaders, mentors, teachers, friends, and ambassadors of this theater community. Not to mention, no one promotes a show and fills seats like Patrick White does. I could go on and on, but I'll stop here. The community has not only changed my life, but saved it. It's a beautiful community of actors, writers, directors, costumers, producers, sound designers, and so on and so forth. Artists with a goal to tell a story, entertain you, give you an escape, and maybe even change you. Bravo. Bravo,
Yeah.
David.
Yes. And bravo, Capital Region Theater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that comment, and maybe even change it goes back to what you said about admissions. And at admissions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In terms of the thought that it encouraged, and looking at things just a little differently.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite inspiring moment from the stage or person?
Well, I gave Meryl some props.
Yeah.
And there are so many, but I think everybody, there were people, I would have to go back a little bit and say, Bob Goepper
Mm.
has always been wonderful to work with. And then when he had mostly retired from the stage, and he's a critic, he took to directing me and my then co-anchor Jim Cambrick in one-act plays, staged readings, because with Jim working the night side and me working day side, we rehearsed at the WNYT during Jim's dinner break. And I'm sure the staff that was on always wondered, what was that hollering all about, And Bob has this wonderful way to really see into the character and help you find the essence. And your perception of the essence may be different than his, but really support you to get to the essence. He's a real actor's director, as was the departed and greatly missed Doug Delisle, who once said, we were rehearsing, and an actor said, he gave a note, he said, "I know." And Doug, in his style, he would sit with his hands, and he'd say, "If you know, you should have done it." I get a note, I just go, "Thank you." And I know some directors are expecting me to say more, because they're used to that. And I'll just go, "Thank you." Because I hear Doug. How about you?
Yeah, there's been so many people who have influenced me along the way that gave me great opportunities. One that jumps to mind, Anne Ridgway, who ran a children's theater company that I did when I was in middle school and high school. And she was the reason I started writing plays, because she said, "Why don't you write a play for this one act festival?" And that just really motivated me. And she was the only one who had a minor put up a play at this festival. And then we ended up winning. And I just kept writing from there. And so, but there's so many people who've impacted my life. But I'm going to actually talk about a moment as an audience member that inspired me so much. I had never seen Man of La Mancha. I had heard some of the music and thought, whatever. So when it was revived on Broadway, my mom said, "Let's go see it." And I kind of rolled my eyes. Like, "Really? Man of La Mancha? Don't you want to see something else?" So we went, and I had low expectations. It was starring Brian Stokes Mitchell, who is just amazing. And when he sang Impossible Dream, literally, Benita, it was as if the entire world just melted away around me. I was no longer watching a show. I was no longer in an audience. I was just breathing in this man's story, this heartbreaking tale of wanting to charge on, even though the world is pushing him down. And it really spoke to me in a way that theater had never quite ever done before. Just the simplicity and the beauty of his voice, just letting it out. And that was the moment where I was like, I want to be able to do that on stage. I want to make the world melt for other people.
I understand. I saw Al Pacino in the basic training of Pablo Hummel. And I don't think I was breathing for an hour and a half.
Wow.
I don't think the audience was either.
Yeah.
Because he took the stage by storm. I mean, just, for an actor to inhabit a role, but also let you in.
Yeah.
And we've both seen actors inhabit a role, but not do that. I see how great I am, whether they mean to or not.
Right.
But the ones who inhabit the role and say, see inside this person I'm bringing you. That's what Brian Stokes did.
Yeah. Yeah. Magic. Stage magic.
Yes. Yes. So then there's the stuff coming up on Broadway.
Yes, some interesting casting that we were talking about before we started.
So Pamela Anderson is going to be in Chicago. Look, I don't want to take anything away from her, but do you get the feeling like that show now just jumped the shark?
A little bit. I mean, I've never seen Pamela Anderson really act, obviously besides Baywatch, right? Or sing. I only saw the headline. What role do you know is she playing?
Let me tap it. I'll tell you in a sec, because
yeah,
she is going to Roxy Hart.
Roxy Hart.
Mm-hmm.
All power to her. I mean, that's a very
she goes up Tuesday, April 12th. What is it? It's an 8-week run through June 5. She says, I've always been a huge fan of Bob Fosse and Gwen Verdon's work. And ranking 2, playing Roxy Hart, is a dream fulfilled.
All right. There you go. I'll be curious to hear more.
She says playing Roxy Hart is a sweet escape for me. Okay. I know we were all. And wait, now she's going to take take it by storm, right?
Right.
She's adorable.
Mm-hmm.
When you need that kind of vivacity.
Yeah.
To play Roxy Hart, right?
Uh-huh. And then we also saw that Daniel Radcliffe is doing off-Broadway production of Merrily We Roll Along.
Yeah.
I'll tell you. Yeah, I gotta give Daniel Radcliffe such props. An actor who has been able to completely redirect his career. I mean, being Harry Potter and then trying to do anything after that has got to be almost impossible. And he has gone all over the place. And
I saw him in Equus.
Succeeded. Oh, you did see Equus, yeah.
Yeah. And there was no boy wizard. He was committed. He was quite fabulous.
I saw him in How to Succeed. And I mean, he was just a joy. He just brought so much energy and vivacity to that role. It was wonderful. I mean, you wouldn't have known that he was, mostly this this movie actor who played this most famous role.
The bottom line, he's a really good actor.
Yeah.
And that's, the essence. The revival is supposed to open late 2022. All the deets haven't been released yet. But I'm sure that he will pack the house. Yeah. And then I saw, what's this? Former Congressman Joe Crowley is producing a show with an ex-con. They call it, the post says, The Swamp is coming to Broadway. Former Congressman and Queens Democratic boss Joe Crowley is staging a second act as a Broadway producer alongside a notorious industry ex-con. The show Paradise Square and Drabinsky, a real-life Max Bialystock, and he's producing it. It's being brought by Garth Drabinsky. And Drabinsky was busted in 2009 for keeping 2 sets of books and in bilking investors of close to $500 million by claiming extravaganza productions like Kiss of the Spider Woman, Showboat, and Ragtime were smash hits instead of money-losing flops. I didn't realize they were.
Wow.
He's Canadian, sentenced in Toronto to 7 years in prison on fraud charges, which ultimately bankrupted Levent, his Broadway production company, and he was paroled in 2014. So the backstory on this.
Yeah. That's wild.
Isn't that something? Yeah, I still like a good story, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and Broadway is going to keep the COVID vaccine and mask mandates through April.
There you go. It's interesting.
I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, I was going to say it's interesting because locally we've seen some people not drop mask requirements yet, but vaccination proof requirements have started to fizzle out at some theaters.
And look, we've had this conversation. We may all be done with COVID, but COVID ain't done
Right.
with us. And when you go to the theater, you can wear a mask.
Yes. Definitely 100% for me.
As a friend said to me the other day, it's really been nice, all this time hasn't had a cold, stomach bug.
Right. Yeah. Because it's not just COVID. Everyone's immune system is so messed up right now from being isolated for so long.
Yeah. And you know what? When somebody does get a cold, I'm not as worried because then if I'm masked, they're not sneezing on me.
Right.
Broadway bound Neil Diamond musical found its Neil Diamond. Did you see that in Will Swenson?
Oh, all righty.
Have you seen him in anything?
I have not.
No. I mean, he's Tony nominated. He's been they're calling the musical A Beautiful Noise. And I'm trying to think, Swenson, he was in Hair.
Okay.
And he was in Assassins.
Oh,
Also.
maybe I
Yeah.
have seen him on stage.
We were just talking about that before the tape part, but you'll have to keep listening.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been in Waitress, Les Miserables, Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, 110 in the Shade.
Yeah.
So he's got some good chops.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the theater continues. Look at that. New shows opening. Everything moving forward.
Yeah.
And we're going to take a little break from theater in a way. In our next episode, we're going to talk about the Oscars again, because we like to do our annual Oscar chat. So if you haven't seen any of the movies, watch them before before our next episode, so you'll know what we're talking about. I always enjoy that episode. And I wonder, with West Side Story being nominated, there's obviously our big theater connection. And it made me kind of think about movie turned musical, play musical turned movie, and vice versa. And wondering what people think about which ones are successful and which ones didn't work so well.
Yeah. And there was a time where the crossover between stage and silver screen performers were let's not even talk about, the small screen, but it was not what it is now. So many of those in movies have also, graced the stage and perhaps are Tony winners or nominees, and now going, and now they a little work on celluloid.
Yeah.
So for everything theater, it's not so strange.
No, not at all.
Do you have any front runners? Or do you want to save that?
I haven't seen everything yet. I've seen a handful. As a theater person, I like Drive My Car, which is an international film. So, that's kind of interesting to see if it will follow the waves of Parasite from, was that 2 years ago or so?
I think so.
But yeah, but we'll see. Well, yeah,
all the controversy over the awards that are not going to be televised.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I'm personally frustrated about.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
So as we are recording this, there is a storm raging outside. It's its own theater out our windows.
It is. My goodness. Yeah. So I'm glad our power didn't cut out while we were recording.
I had concern about that.
Yes, me too. Yeah. The wind is pretty intense outside.
And I want to give a tip of the hat. They're opening Little Shop of Horrors at Fort Salem Theater. And that will be this weekend, because we're up now, and If you get a chance, it's running for 2 weekends. Make the trip. It's a lovely trip. It actually is. And was it Jacko's around the corner, and also the Salem Tavern is really good to stop into and have a beer and a bite. Really nice folks there. So
Awesome. And of course, check out admissions. As we said earlier, it's the last weekend to catch it. And, it's one really cool thing that I'm going to throw out there. The lead, so it was a very ensemble piece, but I would consider the lead who plays the student. His name is Vlad, and I'm so sorry, Vlad, your last name is escaping me right now. But his family is Ukrainian. So they are actually raising funds. Some of the proceeds of admissions is going to go to, organizations to help people in the Ukraine. So there's another great reason to go support this show. And Vlad I think this is his second production he's ever done. He kind of switched over to theater when he went into to college, and you wouldn't know. I mean, he's a complete natural, and I have to tip my hat because there's one part where he just monologues for 10 minutes. I think it really was 10 minutes straight. No one interrupts him. He just goes on this rant, and it was so natural. It did not sound scripted at all. I mean, he just nailed it.
wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
maybe I can squeak it in. We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah. So everybody, that's at the Albany Barn this weekend. $15. That's it. And directed by Patrick White, who, as someone said in our comments, is one of the power duo of this capital region who supports so much theater. So it's always,
And if
always
you go
feels good
let
to
them know
support him.
you heard the ad right here
Yes.
on
Mhm.
Everything Theater.
Absolutely.
So,
All
well, my
right.
dear,
Yeah.
no,
Sounds good.
beating the dead horse, huh? No,
Exactly. We'll
come to
sign
the
off.
end of the show.
We'll catch you all next week. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Ellen Cribbs.
And I'm Benita Zahn. Be well.
Thank you so much for listening to the Everything Theater podcast. Special thanks goes out to Alice Grinling for our photography and Justin Friello for composing our amazing theme song. Please remember to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you want to share your thoughts or what's going on in your theater community, you can reach out to us on social media or through our email at everythingtheaterpodcast@gmail.com. Till next time, it's everything, everything, everything.